from fantastic UMBC people and surrounding areas on the walls together. We're a totally online publication, so to see it all in real life is just kind of crazy. As I was collecting the various pieces of art the last few weeks, I had them in my office, and I'm seeing them. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I had only seen it all virtually before, so it's pretty exciting to see it here. If we didn't meet, I'm Jenny O'Grady. I'm editor of The Light at Frasted. We've been going for a little over 3 years now, and we just published our 13th issue this morning. So if you haven't gotten the card, check it out when you get home. There's some pretty cool stuff on it. I'm going to try to keep this fairly short because everyone's standing up and it's Friday. But I wanted to bring up 3 pairs who have worked together. Some of them had met each other before tonight. Some of them had not met each other before tonight, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So I'm going to bring up Vin and Danielle first. Yay! Their work is over in the corner, and Danielle is going to read her queer nonfiction piece. Here. Started off on a light note, yes.
Just as a disclaimer,
Yeah.
the piece is part of a larger piece, and my mom is not a terrible person. She's really wonderful.
Artistic license.
Yeah.
Danielle turned out great.
Anger. I wouldn't say my mother is an angry person. I would say that for my mother, anger is the most accessible emotion, at least when it comes to verbal expression. Confusion, sadness, anxiety, and disappointment all manifest themselves in the form of a red-faced woman screaming. My mother was a good child. She excelled at burying her emotions, biting her tongue, keeping her poise, and marching on stoically during difficult times. Around the time she was 40, all of the burying, keeping, and marching began to catch up with her. Either that, or this was a time in my childhood when her anger became stamped into my consciousness. The latter is probably more accurate. There was, after all, a story that floated around our family dating from the early years of my parents' marriage, well before my mother reached her 40s. The story ended with my father covered in a plate of food, something that I have no doubt he deserved. For many years, my father was a demanding man, the only boy brought up in a traditional Italian family. He was used to being coddled and waited on. This was perhaps lesson number 1 in Think Again, which he wisely did. Over the course of their now 40-year marriage, my father has evolved. He does laundry, assists in cleaning the house, and occasionally cooks. Perhaps most astoundingly, when he needs salt for his meal, he gets up and retrieves it from the cabinet rather than asking my mother, "Is there any salt?" the way that he used to do. My mother, on the other hand, was the only girl of 4 children. She'd grown up with the expectation that she would pitch in. While her brothers went out to play, she spent the days dusting, vacuuming, stripping the beds, etc. This was what girls did. To her credit, my mother strove not to condemn my sister and I to what had been her fate. We had chores, but they were reasonable tasks that didn't fill entire days. My grandmother thought we were spoiled in this way and can often be heard muttering the phrase, "If you were my girls," which would cause a shiver to run down our spines. What is most illuminating about my mother's anger is its disproportion to the object or infraction to which she connects it. The imbalance is sometimes so severe that it reveals something deeper at the root, some sadness or frustration that is too cumbersome for my mother to handle. Take, for instance, the classic example of dishes in the sink. My sister and I learned early in our lives that if we spent the day at home, be it for a holiday from school or summer vacation, we had better not leave a single dish in the sink. If we did, my mother would have a fit, her Irish skin growing bright red, nostrils flaring, voice booming. A dish in the sink was the ultimate slap in the face to our mother, who had been at work all day. On a certain level, it made sense. Who wanted to come home to a dirty sink after a day of hard work? But it was out of balance. I suspect that what my mother truly felt was undervalued and unappreciated, as though she was expected to clean up remnants of her childhood when she had no voice.
I'm so bad at this. This is usually completely virtual for me. I didn't properly introduce you.
Oh.
Danielle, she's an MFA student at the University of Baltimore, specializing in creative nonfiction. She's been published in Huffington Post and Baltimore Fishbowl. And Ben Grable here is our UMBC connection in this pair. Ben is a professor of art and chair of the visual arts department at UMBC. And what I'm really interested in is you have a body of work that has a very strong voice. What was it like to keep your voice and also respond to this piece of work from Danielle?
Well, it was a great opportunity, great challenge, a lot of fun to try to get into this image, the feeling of her story. Clearly, I had to fill up sinks with dishes. I had to, and I focused on that. Toward the end of her story, I wanted to focus on that feeling that the daughters would have about what their mother might be thinking if the dishes were not done. And so, and I had been doing, the work I've been doing for the last year or two is kind of based on this format of combining two different scenes or two different worlds together, kind of a figured ground relationship between something in the back and something in the foreground using this grid structure. And so I just applied the same structure, the same format to the idea of the mother or a mother figure and kind of ghost-like, like a memory in this case, memory or dream or apparition. A little artistic license of my own there. And then the dishes. And, I guess that's what I did.
And these two had never met each other before,
Right.
and you didn't really know anything about each other.
Right.
Was it surprising to find out, Danielle, that you were working with the department chair? Or is really?
It was,
No big deal.
It was great. I mean, it was really exciting, and it was interesting to see the piece that he created from what I wrote, and it actually seems to represent it really well. Like in my mind, when I saw it, it was great to see it. So.
That's fun. And of course, Danielle wrote a piece about images that I submitted to her, so those are on the website. If who's interested can take a look at those.
Right,
Yeah.
and I should say there's a search. You can just type either of their names in and get right to the issue that has the original on it. So, thank you very much. Next victims are Meredith Purvis and Avelino. Hi. Their work is in the back corner over there. Richard was just, there you go,
Thank
that one. And in this case, we have the poem, and the poem was first, and then the
Photo first.
Oh, I did them backwards. I'm sorry, that's my bad. Okay.
No, okay.
But here's something interesting. These two, many times our contributors, most of the time, they don't know each other, never seen each other, and when they see the finished work, it's a surprise, a complete surprise. In this case, these two are boyfriend girlfriend.
It's true.
So their experiences may be a little bit different. I'd like to invite Meredith first to read her poem.
Okay. This poem's called The Garage, which is not shocking when you look at the photo.
In the wrong order.
This is a place giving up on itself. Warped wooden doors and weather-stained cinder blocks, rotten shingles and cracked concrete floors. But once, with backs on cool stone, we stared up into the twining maze of undercarriage, universe of engine and belts, and I passed you tools, held the flashlight. You taught me how to drive here, blunt fingers tracing the outline of odometer, the curving bell of gas and brake, hand on my shoulder, as you explained 10 and 2. Now there are only echoes of us here, a wrench lying in the corner, a jacket on a peg, as though you had only left for a moment.
So here's the question I have. When you took the what inspired you to take it? And then the follow-up is, did you have any idea?
Well, at the time we were living in Hamden, which is the neighborhood of Baltimore, and I was actually just fascinated by the garages of Hamden. And I think, having seen more of Baltimore, it seems like it's more of a thing with Baltimore in general, but in Hamden, they seem to be pretty run down. They're very, there's a chain and a lock holding them together, and that seems to be about it, and that kind of structure just really spoke to me, I guess. I took a bunch of pictures of a bunch of garages in Hampton while we were there, so.
And I did know about it because we would go out to dinner in Hamden and walk home, and all of a sudden, like, I'm 5 steps ahead, where did you go? And he's snapping a photo of a garage door. What are you doing? He says, oh, I'm taking a series of garage door photos. So when that arrived in my inbox, when we got paired together, I was like, oh, I know what this is. But, for me, what was really cool about this particular image is that it was the one that backed up directly on our driveway. So not only did I know where the photo was from, I have also had my own interactions with that garage as much as one does, and had seen it a lot. And so, sort of had some time to think about it, because it's sort of away from a house, it doesn't seem really connected to anything. And as he said, so many of the garages are really run down. So when I wrote the poem, I sort of immediately went to this aspect of forgottenness, and that there was something here at some point, but now it's totally gone. And it was cool to riff on one of his photos, because we are together, and so we often see each other's work, but we don't often collaborate much, and so, we didn't sit down and chat about it, but it was neat to work with something that was more connected to you than...
That was a really fun part, because I understand that I've inspired some of her work in the past. This time I actually got to choose what I was
And the relationship you sort of talk about in your poem, that's imagined. It's not happening.
No, it's totally imagined. It's a father and son to me, or a father and daughter, or a mother, whoever, parent and child. And just that way that knowledge is passed on to you, and you learn from them. I feel like one of the things that I often deal with in my writing is that we as humans leave imprints on the spaces we inhabit, whether we realize it or not. So that's where I went with my poem. Cool. Felt very lofty.
And the last pair I'm going to bring up are Michelle and Chris. I'm forcing Michelle to talk.
Yeah, sorry.